I was going to say to protect the innocent, but they're not innocent. I want to share the view of manufacturing. You know, it's basically a story where marketing, sales, purchasing, engineering, HR, quality, they're all there. And they deflect accountability with 3 recurring excuses. We don't have time. We can't measure that. Our processes are too complex. So what I'm trying to tell is a story that captures a dysfunctional endemic that happens in a lot of companies. The people closest to the work absorb the consequences of decisions made far from them. And why those who created the conditions for failure sit comfortably behind the protection of complexity, business system, and unmeasured outcomes. So the quarterly review meeting begins, as always did, 8 a.m. sharp. Interesting, the only person that showed up on time was Gary, the VP of operations. And right next to him was the plant manager, Denise. And she only had a single sheet of paper in front of her. And here's what it said. On-time delivery was 67%. Customer returns are up 18%. Scrap is 2.3 million year to date. That's what was on her mind. But Sandra from marketing went first, because marketing always goes first. And we need to talk about the new product launch is what she's concerned about. Clicking on the slide, showing a great photo of a new bracket that no one's built yet. And they enthusiastically state that we already promised customers delivery in Q3. The brand positioning is set, the trade shows booked. And Denise, again, the plant manager, says, Sandra, we haven't even gotten specs from engineering. And she just goes, yeah, we know, but marketing can't afford to slow down. We have to, we can't wait on the floor. Okay. The next was Phil from sales. He came late, of course, already on his phone, but he interrupted to say, hey, big news. Westbrook Industries wants to double their order, 40,000 units by November. And Denise, the plant manager, and blinked and said, Phil, we're already running at 91% capacity. Right, but this is Westbrook, and I already told him yes. You already what? Well, verbally, not in writing. And he smiled. The man had never seen a production schedule. You guys in manufacturing will figure out. You always do. And then Marcus from purchasing showed up. And he goes, I need to address the supplier situation before anyone brings it up. Yes, we switched to the offshore fastener supplier. And yes, there's been some quality issues, but the cost savings were significant. And purchasing hit its savings targets for the year. Denise put nothing. Marcus, we're scrapped 4,000 assemblies because the thread pitch was out of tolerance. And he just said, well, that's a production issue. Our processes are too complex to tie incoming material quality directly to a single supplier. There's too many variables. And Denise, getting a little frustrated, said, well, the variable is that the parts are wrong. Then Tony from engineering, young engineer, was sitting there because Tony couldn't make it. And Denise said, are we going to get the revised tool drawings for the series? And Todd, the replacement, said, well, let me let you know, engineering currently supporting 7 active development programs and 3 customer change requests. I'm quoting here, we don't have time to talk about production tooling that should have been frozen 6 months ago. Room kind of goes quiet. Gary, the VP of operations, said, when did engineering freeze the design? Engineering says, well, it's not really frozen yet. And production's been running for how long against an open design? 11 months. Then Bridget from HR looks up, says, hey, I want to talk about the turnover issue on the floor. We lost 23 operators in the past quarter. Yes, Denise, the plant manager, said, I've been asking for exit interview data for 2 months. Well, again, this is HR. The data is complicated. I mean, people leave for a lot of reasons. We can't measure what it's really driving. It's qualitative, feelings, culture. We need a full engagement study, probably a third-party firm to get anything statistically valid. Can you at least tell me what the people said when they left? HR paused. Well, some of them mentioned stress, working on the floor. Like, all right, well, the last person up was Kevin from quality. And Kevin started saying, look, I want to be transparent. Our inspection team has flagged 32 nonconformances in the past 60 days. However, our current quality management system doesn't interface with ERP, so I can't correlate defects codes to work orders in real time. We have to do it manually, and frankly, our processes are too complex to implement a fix without a full system overhaul. Denise says, your team approved the last two supplier qualifications that resulted in scrap events. Well, those approvals were done under pressure from purchasing. And of course, purchasing looks up and says, well, we were under pressure from sales. And sales was still on his phone. So Gary, the VP of Ops, says, so let me make sure I have this right. Marketing has committed to a launch date without specs. Sales is committed to a volume without capacity. Purchasing changed the supplier to hit a savings target. Engineering hasn't frozen the design 11 months. And HR can't tell me why our operators are leaving. And quality, they can't tell me how defects relate to performance. And he paused, and Denise, your on-time delivery is 67%. So everyone turned to the plant manager and said, what are you going to do about it? And Denise looked around the people. She had a single sheet of paper. And she said, I'm going to need a bigger floor. Sales impacted purchasing, purchasing impacted quality, quality impacted the shop floor, and our on-time delivery plummets, and our quality got poor. So what I'm trying to describe in this short story is marketing is being successful, new product launch, they booked the trade show, sales wins the Westbrook account, yay, purchasing hits its annual cost targets. And to all these executives, we're succeeding. The point I'm trying to make is when localized metrics for a single department, it keeps people from looking at a holistic view. So the company wins the meeting but loses the factory. The system's failing. And what motivated me to do this is I was just living this as a plant manager, and I don't know why the non-manufacturing responses are accepted. As a plant manager, if I said I don't have time, I'd be laughed at. If I was a plant manager, I said we can't measure that, they go, what? And to say our processes are too complex, it's like, well, you're manufacturing. What do you mean they're too complex? So when leaders hide behind time, complexity, unmeasurable data, accountability is relocated to the people that can't deflect it, and that's manufacturing. So I wanted to tell you a quick story, but I also wanted to give you a solution, and that is an integrated process excellence deployment framework. Very simple, 6-step process that gets everybody, sales, marketing, purchasing, engineering, quality, all on the same playbook. It defines the players on the teams, defines their roles, defines how they do what they do, focuses on how they communicate it, and then measures and controls to improve. It's pretty straightforward. I put it into a lot of facilities, and it starts with, do you have a corporate mission statement, values and belief statement? And most companies go, oh, yeah. I go, where is it? I think it's in the lobby. Can you paraphrase it in your own terms? And they kind of stumble. So take the corporate one and get a departmental one for each one of these groups that explains how their department, purchasing, quality, HR, engineering, their beliefs, values, mission, and vision supports corporate. And then for each department, just tell me, here's what I get, here's what I do, here's what I produce. Now, this is where it gets pretty exciting. I also want to understand the cause and effect on the outputs, meaning if I want to reduce scrap, tell me everything that has to be done to reduce scrap. For example, unfreezing drawings, qualifying suppliers, providing the environment where employees stay, and link all these variables together with a governance and review rhythm to build a process model. Now, again, I'm not talking about the 3-ring binders that nobody ever reads during an audit. I'm not talking about what's in SharePoint or the K drive. Very simple. This is who we are. This is what we get. This is what we do with it. And probably the most critical part on this is if you're measuring on-time delivery, this is everything we have to do to make it happen. If you're measuring reduction in scrap, this is everything we have to do to be successful in achieving it. So what I'm describing is the descriptive manuals, even job descriptions that a lot of companies are operating on, traditional workflows even. If you replace it with a more strategic architecture that talks about the cause and effect, that explains the players on the team, that explains how, and this is an interesting one, I'll just pick on purchasing. I was putting this in at LTV Steel, and the plants were complaining that purchasing takes forever to just buy things. Now, again, the mill is a customer of the purchasing department. The purchasing department buys things from them. But one of the things that came out of this conversation, which was, I think, very powerful, is the buyer said, well, if I have a complete and accurate purchase request, I can buy it faster. So if you send me a purchase request that says, I want a new computer, that's not a lot of work. I mean, you want a big one, you want a little one, you want a Mac, you want a Windows. I mean, you got to have complete and accurate inputs. So as we get into non-manufacturing areas of the company, their inputs, their suppliers are quite often their customers. And this awareness starts building that, oh, I see why you need that now. You know, I see why that's critical for engineering. I see why that's important. So the critical takeaway from this very short conversation is, it is my sincere belief that we need to get the manufacturing discipline into non-manufacturing areas. We need to have processes. We need to have measurements. We need to have the ability to track how well we do. So in the manufacturing environment, we've got data-driven consistency. In the non-manufacturing admin ones, we've got unstructured variability, and that's what's killing us. There's a whole bunch more of this on LinkedIn. If you want to see more details about it, there's a whole bunch of more videos on YouTube. But again, the idea today was, how do we do this? Now, I've been focused on how to. There's also a series of books behind the 6 steps. How do I deploy it? How do I build it? How do I put it together? So next step, if you're interested, we provide briefings, one-day seminars, workshops, deployment, project management, and deployment resources. But again, the idea is, how do we put this together in such a way that we can see what's going on? Again, short and sweet. I hope you learned from that, and appreciate you stopping by. Thank you.